Hello, and thank you for joining me at Spooky Reviews. I'm the Ghostess, and I love horror movies so much that I've reviewed over 90 of them for this series so far, and I still haven't talked about some of my favorites. Maybe they don't perfectly embody one of the essential elements of horror, maybe they have plot holes, maybe I don't jump out of my skin in fear, but maybe I don't care. As long as I'm having a blast, you can still get a standing ovation. So today I want to take a look at the ones that gave me a little bit of everything I needed and then some. These are the films that have gotten the most rewatches from me over the years, and they have all come highly recommended for a fucking fantastic time. So, without further ado, here are the 13 most entertaining horror movies of all time. Let's begin the countdown with number 13, Little Monsters. 2019. When there's a zombie outbreak at a petting zoo, a school teacher and chaperone must shelter kindergartners from the horrors around them. Cute really isn't a word I use to describe horror movies that don't star Gizmo, but here we are. This little wonder from down under is cute. I'm not even a sucker for adorable little kids, and even the obnoxious ones in this movie end up being kinda cute. Well, you might not associate zombies with Lupita Nyong'o playing Taylor Swift's Shake It Off on a ukulele. It's a gory, giggly good time for all. And the only movie covered in this much blood that makes me go, aww. Number 12, Los Parecidos, aka The Similars, 2015. A group of strangers trapped at a bus station during a storm begin mysteriously transforming in this supernatural Mexican thriller. It's set in the 1960s with a very Twilight Zone kind of atmosphere, with a tinge of noir, complete with stony-voiced narrator and melodramatic performances. Its makeup and effects are really outstanding. It's very absurd, but the way it sells you that absurdity tips it all the way over into creepy, and it draws you into its logic so that by the end of it, the silly setup feels sickeningly unsettling. So if you like a fun little sci-fi homage, I definitely recommend you check this out. Number 11, House on Haunted Hill, 1999. While the 1950s version is a classic on its own, floating grannies and skeleton marionettes never really made me shiver. But this inventive adaptation is a whole lot of fun, and gives you freaky frights around every corner. Maybe the special effects don't hold up 100%, but a lot of the gore still looks good, and that hallucination sequence still gives me goosebumps. And while you don't get Vincent Price, you do get Jeffrey Rush, Famke Janssen, Ali Larter, Taye Diggs, Peter Gallagher, and Chris Kattan. And while the house has been transformed into more of an insane asylum, it adds a layer of creep to the whole festivities. It probably looks better with nostalgia goggles on, and is very much a product of its time, but it's a classic in my heart, and always worth another watch. Number 10, Pet Sematary, 1989. The Creed family moves into a highway-side home, discovering the land around them contains the ancient secret to raising the dead. This movie kind of falls somewhere between so bad it's good and actually good. There are definitely moments that make me laugh when it's not supposed to, but it's got more than enough scares and an absolutely iconic performance from Herman Munster himself, monologuing in a Maine accent. I did not particularly care for the remake, as sweet little baby Gage is the epitome of innocence, where the bratty Elefant the Great and Terrible only makes me cringe with how hard she's trying to come off creepy. The story started as a thought experiment for Stephen King to explore his fears over his children's safety, and that parental nightmare is better portrayed in the 80s version, with the intensity of that tone offset by sequences that border on campy, tinged with gripping gore. Sometimes dead is better, but I think this one is worth unearthing for another look. Number 9, Ginger Snaps, 2000. The close relationship between two sisters is tested when one gets her first period and then attacked by a werewolf. This offbeat Canadian cult classic has some of my favorite lycanthrope lore, with a sharp storyline exploring identity as a teenage girl and how hormones can change your priorities and seemingly transform you into a whole new person. It's got a very dark, dry teen angst sense of humor a la Heathers, with a lot of touching moments and some pretty cool werewolf design. And it doesn't hurt that it stars my dream girl, Catherine Isabel. So if you're looking for a funny teen horror with a lot of bite, then this is the tale for you. Number 8. Tremors, 1990. Ancient subterranean tunneling monsters prey on a small desert town in this cult classic creature feature. This is one of the first horror movies I ever saw, as edited by the Sci-Fi Channel, and I distinctly remember my mother making me go play outside after it was over, and being terrified of stepping on the front lawn. And it permanently put me off playing on a pogo stick. It is a fun Wild West adventure storyline, rounded out nicely with a ragtag group of characters played by many a familiar face, including Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward, and Reba McEntire. And the monster design is very creative and still holds up after all these years. And even though I know it's gonna get a smile out of me, there are also a couple of death scenes that still give me chills. And if you're down for a silly slide into sci-fi original territory, the rest of the Tremors series is pretty entertaining as well. And when I'm looking for a fun flick to revisit, this one is positively perfection. Number 7. The Host, 2006. A schoolgirl's family hunts down her aquatic kaiju kidnapper. Full of humor, heart, and horror, Bong Joon-ho's Korean creature feature focuses on family and how we can turn our regrets into hope even under the most ridiculous of circumstances, and does so poignantly and with a lot of pathos. Plus, you get some pretty good special effects, a lot of emotional performances that can make you laugh and break your heart, good kid characters with actors to match, and a lot of cool action. It's a really fun ride with plenty of surprises. And like a lot of entries on this list, it has an awesome creature design. So if you're on the hunt for a masterful monster movie, I highly recommend you give this one a shot. Number 6. Housebound, 2014. A woman under house arrest in her childhood home investigates her mother's claims of seemingly paranormal activity. New Zealand really has a way with horror comedy. Just take a look at Dead Alive, Black Sheep, and What We Do in the Shadows. You've got a lot of good choices to make. And if you haven't checked this one out, I highly recommend it. It's one of those movies that has a little bit of every genre, full of suspense and tension and mystery, with extremely well-placed jump scares and a lot of laughs, while still being a little heartwarming in the end. It's a fun haunted house story with a lot of little twists, and it gets a lot of mileage out of atmosphere and good acting. It's a little freaky, a little frightening, and a whole lot of fun. Number 5. Nope, 2022. Animal Wrangler siblings encounter extraterrestrial entity in this sci-fi horror comedy from Jordan Peele. I watched this for the first time during this horror movie everyday project, and I liked it so much I've seen it 6 times since. This film blends genres seamlessly. Jordan Peele has excellent comedic timing and a great sense of horror suspense, giving me a little bit of everything I needed, and still coming up with a brand new science fiction concept that I absolutely love. I'm also really fascinated by human beings who adopt exotic animals and the relationships they believe they build, which definitely fed into my interest in this story. The special effects are absolutely on point in creating a creative new creature design unlike anything I've ever seen before. Coming in at a whopping 131 minutes, not a second on screen is wasted, and I find myself completely compelled by everything I'm watching. I definitely recommend seeing this on the biggest screen you can find, because this paranormal phenomenon is larger than life. Number 4. Attack the Block, 2011. Teenage street toughs defend their neighborhood from an alien invasion. This British film has a little bit of everything and then some. It has kick-ass action, fantastic sci-fi, clear social commentary, stupendous suspense, scares that'll make you eek and shriek, and kills that'll make you go, oh damn, and enough laughs to make it all go down smooth. This movie is as riveting as it is heartfelt, all led by a stoically tender performance from a baby-faced John Boyega. And if you like this movie, I also recommend Vampires vs. the Bronx because it has a very similar heart in its chest, although Attack the Block has a far tougher body and a lot more soul. Number 3. Shaun of the Dead, 2004. A brilliant British zombie romantic buddy comedy. Directed and co-written by Edgar Wright alongside star Simon Pegg, this is a loving homage to everything zombie, filled with Easter eggs for fans in the know. The first of their Cornetto trilogy, and one of my favorite films no matter what the category. It's very evenly horror and comedy. It has precision timing with both jump scares and jokes, with super effective gore and a masterful approach to foreshadowing. And between the gasps and laughs, there are a couple of moments that make me tear up every time I see it. It serves as a parody, yes, but it has so much of its own thing going on, with strong characters you really want to root for, and a kick-ass style that makes it all come together very smoothly. And don't get me started on the Don't Stop Me Now sequence, which they choreographed before even knowing if they were going to get the rights to use the song. I didn't want this entire list to end up being horror comedies, but I couldn't count down entertaining entries without including this classic from across the pond. Number 2. The People Under the Stairs, 1991. Thieves coerce a young boy to break into their shady landlord's home looking for retribution, but instead discover their freaky secrets. This film is delightfully twisted and genuinely disturbing, but it's also a ton of fun. I've seen this labeled as a horror comedy or black comedy, but its laughs don't come from jokes so much as incredulousness, shaking your head in disbelief at the high-energy insanity unfolding on screen. Wes Craven clearly had something to say about landlords who buy up property just to raise their rent, forcing the poor and primarily people of color out of their homes, and portrays these slumlords as cartoonishly vile, especially when compared to the cunning and charming child protagonists, who prove to be more clever than they are cutesy. It's got almost a live-action Disney movie adventure spirit, all wrapped up in schlock and shocking concepts. Even a fool could see how great this movie is. And here are a few more entertaining entries that didn't quite make the cut. And the number 1 most entertaining horror film of all time is They Live, 1988. I came here to chew bubblegum and talk about entertaining horror movies, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Based on the 1960s short story 8 O'Clock in the Morning by Ray Nelson, John Carpenter adapted and directed this film under the lens of Reaganomics, exploring the media's manipulation of the populace and how that can be weaponized by the top of the social hierarchy to subjugate and control the poor. This film innovated iconic imagery, questioning the manipulation of media. And as biting as that social commentary can be, it's also a fuck ton of fun. You get cool catchphrases, crazy fight scenes, and some simple but striking special effects. And it all adds up to a rip-roaring adventure starring rowdy Roddy Piper and the coolest voice in show business, Keith David. It's a supreme spectacle that's worth more than one look, so put on the sunglasses and check it out now. So those were, in my humble opinion, the 13 most entertaining horror movies of all time. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me at Spooky Ghostess on Twitter. Let me know in the comments below if I missed any of your favorites. Be sure to check out the rest of this series and join me next time when I end this list with the 13 most prestigious horror movies of all time. See you then, and boo for now. What happened?